Hello, students. It's Sam Bennett, your guide to critical thinking, and this is another short video on a key concept. Actually, this is a second video on the difference between inductive and deductive arguments, so make sure you watch the first video first. Before we dive into the difference between inductive and deductive arguments, let's just quickly recall what an argument is. What is an argument in general? Okay, well, this is one way of describing an argument, right? In any argument you see, the speaker is always going to draw a conclusion based on some information. So here is an example for you. We shouldn't go out to dinner tonight because we need to watch our budget. This is an argument. And notice the speaker draws the conclusion that they shouldn't go out to dinner based on some information. They don't just say, hey, we shouldn't go out to dinner tonight. No, they draw that conclusion based on the information that we need to watch our budget. And so that makes it an argument. Okay, now let's talk about the difference between inductive and deductive arguments. So first, I want you to imagine something for me, okay? Close your eyes and imagine this. You walk into this beautiful large house. You're shown 90% of the home. And all the rooms that you see, 90% of the home are very clean. Would this lead you to conclude that probably the whole house is clean? Well, let's suppose you do make that conclusion. Let's say you do draw the conclusion that probably the whole house is clean. I want you to notice something. It is still possible that the remaining 10% of the house is not clean, right? Okay, if 90% of the house is clean, yeah, maybe it's likely that the remaining 10% of the house is also clean. But it's not necessary. It could be the case that, surprise, surprise, the last 10% is unclean. What we have here is an inductive argument, right? The whole house is probably clean because I saw 90% of the house and it was clean. The speaker thinks that the conclusion probably follows from the information. The speaker would never say that the conclusion necessarily follows. They would never say the last 10% must be clean if the first 90% is clean. No. They would never say that. They would say it's probably clean. And that makes it an inductive argument. Okay, again, I want you to imagine a new scenario with me, okay? You look at this incredible mansion, okay? And you're told this is the president of France. He owns this house. And then the president of France steps out of the home and invites you into the house. Incredible. You're going through the rooms and you get to this magnificent room here. It has paintings and you're talking about the paintings with the president of France. And my question for you is this. Would you ever ask the president the following question? Would you ever say, now I know you own this whole house, but do you also own this room? Have you ever asked that to anyone, right? Any owner of a house? Would you go, I know you own this whole house, but do you also own this room? You would never ask that question. And to convey that, it's because, look, if the president owns the whole house, it's guaranteed that he owns this room of the house. And we can put that in terms of a deductive argument. The president owns the house, therefore the president owns this room of the house. Okay? Anyone who thinks this is going to think that the conclusion follows necessarily. Necessarily, the president owns this room of the house if he owns the whole house. So the key to a deductive argument is that the person thinks the conclusion follows necessarily, not probably, but necessarily from the information. All right, another scenario. Imagine you're a detective. You're investigating a murder at a mansion. You interview everyone related to the mansion, okay? You're asking them where they were. Now, you've realized that the butler, this guy on the right, he lied to you about where he was on the night before the murder. He says he was in the library all evening, but in fact, he was having a secret meeting with a former employee in the garden. Oh my goodness. He lied to you. Okay, based on this information, you might draw the following conclusion. Because the butler lied about his whereabouts the night before the murder, he was probably involved in the murder. You might draw that conclusion. But notice, this is an inductive argument. Why? Because no one would ever say that just because someone lied about their whereabouts the night before the murder, it's 100% certain that they were involved. No, that's crazy, right? Maybe he wasn't involved. It's just very likely that he was involved, right? Why would you lie to a detective about where you were unless you were involved? It's unlikely that he would lie and not be involved. However, it's still possible. It's still possible. And so that's why this is an inductive argument. Okay, I hope this video was helpful to you. We went over a little bit more the difference between inductive and deductive arguments.